Welcome back to a Slice of News, where I cut you off a slice of news. The president really wants Greenland. He's made that pretty clear and says he's quote, discussing a range of options to acquire it, which of course includes military intervention. The administration is justifying their decision to seize Greenland by saying that it is a matter of national security. As if framing it that way is going to be enough to make it seem okay, when all it really is an excuse to continue the president's imperialist ambitions. If you ask Stephen Miller, he'd say that if we did end up using the military in Greenland, nobody could stop us. That alone would seem enough motivation to get them to use it, since they feel that if there can be no opposition, they can simply do whatever they want. And while I'm sure he and people like Secretary of Defense Hegseth are salivating at the idea of sending troops, it seems almost a given that if it did come to that, it would end very badly for everyone. Even if it were true that there would be minimal physical opposition on the ground in Greenland, military action there would result in what some would say the end of NATO itself. Purely from an optics perspective, it would be impossible to defend. Those that the U.S. has considered allies for decades would have every reason to push back against us, and undoubtedly would, despite the feelings by many that it's us against the world, and if it came down to that, we could take them. The reality is that we could not. The U.S.'s overinflated sense of self would truly be tested and found lacking. If nothing else, it would certainly cement us as the bad guys. And considering how much of America believes themselves to be the perpetual hero, having our allies literally turn against us, justifiably so, would be an incredible blow to that perception. Whatever shred of reputation we had abroad would be completely shredded, possibly irrevocably so. It would be a line once crossed, likely could not be uncrossed. If they went ahead with military action, they're risking reprisals, such as having Europe kick out all the troops that we have stationed over there and trade embargoes with the United States. That would be very bad for us. But boots on the ground are, of course, not their only possible plan to get Greenland for themselves. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has suggested that rather than go the military route, they may try to outright purchase Greenland from Denmark. Though how they are going to manage to buy something which is not for sale, I really don't know. The way the administration sees it, Greenland already belongs to them, and they're just taking what is theirs. But of course, that assertion is complete nonsense. Greenland has never belonged to the United States, and certainly doesn't belong to him now. All the same, they'll argue that Greenland is covered in Russian and Chinese ships, and they have to take it for national security. That sounds to me just like a foreign invader trying to justify their invasion and seizure of property that is not theirs to begin with. But despite the fact they want to claim it by force, and despite the fact that they say it is a national security necessity, the real reason they're trying to take Greenland is probably the same reason that we have stolen so many other lands and toppled governments. They have a resource that we want. Unsurprisingly, Greenland has oil, a favorite resource of many a Republican president, but they also have neodymium and dysprosium, which are used in the manufacture of smartphones, as well as graphite, copper, nickel, lithium, gallium, and even diamond. They want Greenland's minerals, and while they won't outright say that that's what they're trying to do, to claim those mineral resources for the United States, or more specifically for the corporations, I remain unconvinced that that's not at least the majority of the reason why they're trying to take this place over, despite objections from the people who actually live there and the Danish government, who have held Greenland as a self-governing territory for centuries now. In this way, it seems more like piracy than anything else. Greenland has resources the United States wants, and they're willing to use force if necessary to take them. When it comes to the international community, just about no one is in favor of this. Countries like Germany, Italy, France, Spain, Poland, and even the United Kingdom have all issued statements that Greenland belongs to the people who live there, and absolutely do not approve of a seizure of Greenland by the United States. If that many countries come out against something you want to do, maybe that's because it's the wrong thing to do. Not to mention the fact that 85% of the island's residents said they don't want the U.S. taking it over anyway. Other than those in the Trump administration, nobody seems to want this. And yet they push forward with it, despite the fact doing so could very well end an international alliance that has stood since the end of World War II. I've already said that I wondered why they were doing this, and maybe that, if not the primary motivation, may be a part of it. The president has been very vocal on multiple occasions just how much he doesn't like NATO because he feels that they take advantage of the United States and don't pay their fair share. So the idea he would try to find some way to dissolve it once and for all isn't exactly out of the realm of possibility. He and his rabid followers have so deeply bought into the myth of American exceptionalism that they honestly seem to believe that they would be better off on their own and they don't need international allies. And it really comes down to, what has NATO done for me lately? And there may be something to that, considering the president just removed the United States from 66 international organizations, 31 of which were tied to the United Nations, and 35 non-UN organizations. It seems he really is trying to separate the United States from the rest of the world because he feels that the international community holds us back. The administration wants isolation. It wants to be free from the shackles of international responsibility. It wants to take whatever it can and give as little as possible. And what's worse is the damage he's doing now, the damage the administration is doing on the international stage, will be very difficult to undo once they're all gone. But that's of no concern to them. The United States does not exist in a bubble. We've always depended on our international allies, and they've depended on us. That's not a bad thing. Cooperation is not a bad thing. But in their mind, it has to be us and us alone. We don't need anyone else. When the reality is that we very much do. And trying to seize Greenland, be it by force or by purchase, would cause many of those international allies to turn against us. And rightfully so. The president is using this Greenland thing, among other things, to make America the enemy of the world, more so than it has been in the past. And once we've gained that reputation, it's going to be one that it will be incredibly hard to come back from. Once we've lost the respect of the rest of the world, they will not want to give it back no matter how much we'll want it. These could be some very permanent consequences, and they either seem to not know or not care about that fact. But regardless of the administration's justification or explanation for this choice, it is clear that it is the wrong one and it should not be. The fact that the administration just continues to push on this and keeps being committed to seizing land the people already live on for their own personal enrichment really shines a big light on just who they are, but also reminds us how deeply entrenched the ideas of American colonialism have remained even after centuries. The United States does not have rights or dominion over other pieces of land, especially not ones that are populated by people who are perfectly happy existing without American involvement and certainly do not want to be absorbed into the American empire. The fact that we have a leader that can look at a piece of land and wonder, why does that not belong to us, should be deeply concerning to everyone, regardless of political affiliation. That is not what we as Americans do. That is not what our leaders should do. Greenland is not for sale, and it is not a place for military force to take over. The fact this is even being discussed is already deeply disturbing, and the idea that so many are behind the idea is even more so. All this seems to really do is reinforce to the rest of the world that all the negative opinions and all the bad things that they think about America is entirely correct. That the U.S. is just a warmongering invader who takes whatever they want because they think it is their right and nobody can stand in their way. But if they keep at it, the U.S. is going to find out that there are actually a lot of people who can stand in their way because they are not the greatest force on earth. Yes, our military spending is out of control and is only exponentially grown over time. That doesn't make us the kings of the world who can take whatever we please because we have the most guns. It's become scarily clear if we somehow descended into another war, this country would be on the wrong side of it. We've become the enemy that we fought against in World War II. And those same allied nations who help us win that conflict may be forced to take up arms against us. I, of course, very much hope that extreme never comes to pass. But as it is, that's the direction that we are heading towards. If America was a ship, we'd be crying out for a new captain because this one clearly is not fit to drive our boat. We all deserve so much better. This country and the world at large. If President Trump seizes Greenland, it will set in motion things that cannot be undone, can't be walked back, and that will be his legacy and will be all worse for it. Alright guys, that'll be it for this episode of A Slice of News. I've been your host, Mr. Slice, and until next time, when I cut you off another slice of news. And don't forget to rate and review this show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.